You, Lita. We always in our program fashion, we always start with a prayer. So that is where we will begin today. So, why do we pray? They asked. Rabbi Heschel replied, "We pray because there is a vast disproportion between human misery and human compassion. As we enter this world, so we leave it. Each of us individually thrust out into the mystery of being, each one personally named and brought into community, everyone singularly drawn into the mystery of death. And so, in deference to the holy presence, the loving, the losses, the longings that have brought us to this moment, and recognizing the God who walks with us, and in honor of this new pilgrimage, we take off our shoes. This is how we approach the holy, humble and barefoot, careful not to trample on the dreams, the wisdom, the God who is present in one another. And so we leave room for mystery, and we make space to learn and grow." Amen. And so that was a prayer taken from the Engaging Spirituality program appropriately. So if there was anything in there that resonated with you. So just a word about JustFaith Ministries in general, in case you're not familiar with all of the work that we do, that our mission and vision is building a more just and peaceful, and I would say an equitable world. And so our place in this is to develop resources primarily for small groups that are used in living rooms and churches and in organizations that really equip and inspire people to seek out justice. And so we have several programs that we offer. We have our signature JustFaith program. We have a Catholic, specifically Catholic version of that that we've done in collaboration with some Catholic entities. The focus of that program is primarily poverty and the issues that intersect with poverty. We have a racial justice series that's very popular right now, as you can imagine, given the climate in the US, and rightly so. We're so thrilled that people are using that program. But it's a 3-part series. There are 3 programs in the series. We have a Youth for Justice program, and this is just providing tools for youth ministers to sort of create their own program based on whatever topics they want to address at the time. So there are several different individual topics in our Youth for Justice program, and people just pick the ones that are relevant and, as I said, create their own program based on those topics. We have the Good News People program, which is a program, it's really designed primarily for a Catholic audience, and this is a faith formation program that's that has the social justice lean to it. A Just Engagement, The Power to Change, that's a program that addresses advocacy. What is advocacy? What are the different ways that you can do advocacy? What does advocacy look like? And then some discernment around what are you being called to do? We have a program called Hunger, a Faith and Justice Response. We've done that in collaboration with Bread for the World, and it addresses, of course, the issue of hunger. And then we address the issue of immigration in faith and immigration justice. That program focuses primarily on the southern border, but not exclusively. And Cultivating Nonviolence, Harvesting Peace. That's a program that obviously focuses on nonviolence. And then we have just launched the second program in a 3-part series of eco-justice. So The first program in the series was Sacred Land. The second one we just launched, Sacred Air. And then the third one that will come out in the spring of 2022 is Sacred Water. In addition, I might add that this fall, we're actually going to be working on a program that focuses on civil dialogue and nonviolent communication. So all of our programs are 8 weeks. And so that's so if it's a 3-program series, that's 3 8-week programs, just to clarify. So the Engaging Spirituality program, the language that we use to describe it is for those who want to live an undivided and connected life. Let me share more practically what that means. I like to talk about the Engaging Spirituality program as a program that integrates prayer and action. For me, I'm an Episcopalian myself, of course, Melody, and but I also am a keen to Franciscan spirituality. And so sometimes I think of St. Francis as the quintessential contemplative, because Francis integrated the prayer and action. In other words, his prayer life in the caves in Assisi drove him to ministry in the marketplace and fueled his outreach and solidarity with those who had needs. And then the reverse is true, that outreach and solidarity with those who were marginalized drove him to his ministry or his prayer life back in the caves in Assisi. So the two weren't separate. They were integrated, prayer and action. And so there's a quote that I like to use that I wish I knew who to credit it to, but I heard years ago, if the doers could be prayers and the prayers could be doers, what a phenomenal world, we would have because of the integration of the two. So like our other series, the Engaging Spirituality series has 3 programs. They're 3 8-week programs. The first program in the series is called Out of the Light, Creating, and it's actually, we have a typo there, Creating Sacred Space for Self and Others. And this particular program really does the grounding work in the program. It introduces prayer practices. There's a lot of centering prayer built into the program. There's some, it's steeped in that contemplative prayer practice, pauses, entering in and out of prayer with the chime, those kinds of things. So it lays the groundwork for sort of immersing ourselves in this contemplative space of prayer and grounding ourselves in prayer, but also leans into weekly practices of giving thanks, receiving grace. Those are some of the themes that come out of this first program in the series. The second program in the series is Into the Dark, Bearing Witness to Suffering and Mystery. So in this one, people enter into this space of, it's not hard to think about the suffering and darkness in the world. Unfortunately, there's a lot of it. But this is the place to really rest in that space of lament. If you think of the psalmists, that space where, you can hold the tension and the trouble and the struggles of the world contemplatively, but not let them consume you. And so this second program in this series really is designed to help people hold the troubles and struggles and iniquities and all of those, the death and destruction in the world, but do it from this place where you're not left without any hope, that there can't be, something done to address this. So you hold this incompleteness. You've heard some spiritual pathfinders talk about the path of unknowing. That's sort of the vibe of this second program. This seeking solidarity with those on the margins, befriending the paradox, in order to have life, you have to have death first. This is the program that focuses in on you can't skip Good Friday to get to Easter Sunday. We all have to go through Good Friday. So, and then the third program in the series is Down to Earth, Embracing Healing, Justice, and Joy. And so, if you haven't noticed, there's sort of a flow to these three, where the first is setting the stage for these spiritual practices and the contemplative piece. And then it goes into this, really going down deep into this space of unknowing and holding paradoxes. And then you come out of that space, and the third program focuses on the hopefulness of contemplative action. That an end to suffering and injustice is possible. Living peacefully and what that means. Embracing Sabbath moments. Becoming a transforming presence in the world. These are all things that are part of that third program in the series. So it's definitely the one that has the most, that leaves people with this sense of hope that the needs of the world are not impossible to manage. There's some unique components with our programs. Some of these are true with all of our programs, and some of them are unique to Engaging Spirituality. There's an opening retreat that happens at the very beginning of the program. If somebody were to start the first program in this series, it would begin with an opening retreat. Right now, the in-person version of that opening retreat is a full day. It's about 9 hours. We do have a virtual adaptation for those who are doing that retreat virtually. 9 hours on Zoom makes some people's heads want to spin. So it's about 3.5 hours is the virtual version. I am in the process of doing some adaptations with this program. So those are what they are right now. I might do a little nuancing and shifting. And so we launch our new program year on July 1st, and just be aware that the timing of these may shift just a little bit as I start to look at the outline and, incorporate some of the feedback that we've gotten. That the opening retreat starts the program. In between the first program in the series and the second program in the series, there's an immersion experience. And again, there's a in-person version of this and a virtual version of this. The in-person version is about 4 hours. The virtual version would be less, a little bit less, but again, these are things I'm looking at right now, and we'll do a little bit of adapting on. Between at the end of each of the programs in the series, there is a discernment session. So you might say week 8 of every one of the 8-week programs. This is the opportunity for the group to discern what's next personally and what's next for the group. Will the group move on from program 1 to program 2? Will the group move on from program 2 to program 3? What will I do personally as a response to this program? All of our programs, we hope, are moving and inspiring people to engage and to do some active engagement with the needs of the world. So there's always a personal discernment and some small group discernment about what's next. If a group does all 3 programs in the series and gets to the end of the third program, there's a commissioning session. And that's really designed to, now that we've had this programmatic experience, what are we going to take and do with it? Again, personally, and then, are we going to continue on in any way as a group, even if that's just getting together occasionally, casually or formally. There are a handful of books that are used throughout the program. For those of you that are familiar with our other programs, the reading is an active part of every meeting in most of our other programs. The reading is a little bit different in engaging spirituality, so I want to make that distinction. There is an opportunity to share a gleaning from the reading every week. However, it's not the focus of the ultimate focus of a meeting. So know that the reading for this program is grounding and supplemental more than it is the focus of any one meeting. So the books used are Jesus Today, a book by a timeless book. It's an older copyright, but it's timeless, by Albert Nolan. Embracing the World, Praying for Justice and Peace by Jane Vennard. The Holy Longing, again, a timeless book by Ronald Rolheiser. A book called Just Spirituality, How Faith Practices Fuel Social Action. And then the original author of the Engaging Spirituality program is Joe Grant. He used to be on staff with JustFaith Ministries. He wrote this program. He has a book of poetry and prayers that is also used in the program, and it's called Still in the Storm. The one thing that's unique to this program that is not a part of our other programs is there's also a journal that goes specifically with this program and coincides with the session. So there's journaling time that's a part of every weekly assignment. Oh, there we go. Some of the things that are a piece of the sessions themselves, there's an opening and a closing meditation that happens, that bookends every single session. These are not quick, one prayer, one offs. It's a meditation. And so the opening meditation may take 15 or 20 minutes, and the closing meditation may take 10 to 15 minutes. So there's substantial meditations. Built into them, as I said, is centering prayer, the prayer practice of letting go of thoughts and just being in a contemplative space. There's Lectio Divina that is built in to the program. And Lectio Divina is the practice of praying with, meditating, contemplating. And then there's one other action. What are your takeaway from a reading or a reflection or a scripture passage? In this case, it's the Bearings letter, which I'll get to in a minute. There's opportunities for large group and small group sharing. And in fact, one of the adaptations that I will be making is more opportunities for small group sharing, particularly on Zoom. We found that's something that's desired. In each session, again, making a contrast to our regular programs. In our regular programs, there's a lot of dialogue, people responding to conversation that a thought that somebody has, somebody responds to it. In the Engaging Spirituality program, it's really about listening, and it's not necessarily about responding to what somebody just said. So you might have your own response, but it's not in relationship to what somebody else just said. The stance is sacred listening, and then heart sharing, sharing from your own space. As I said, there is an integration of spirituality and action. That's a big part of it. There's a section in the sharing, a listening part of the meeting, which is typically the second half. There's a regular part of the meeting that's connecting faith and action. So connecting that spirituality and action, which makes the connection between my own personal spirituality and the needs in the world. And then last but not least, included in every single program and in most of the other retreats and pilgrimage days, there is what's called a Bearings letter. And these Bearings letters are personal letters that we've had written by what we call spiritual pathfinders or spiritual gurus. So people that you may know who are religious figures today, who have written a personal letter to the Engaging Spirituality group that address what their prayer practices are that keep them grounded, what they find challenging, and what their challenge for the particular group that's hearing the letter is. So those Bearings letters are a unique part of the program, and they're read in a Lectio Divina format in every session of the program.
So in the Engaging Spirituality series, as Susie has referenced multiple times, you can expect to do the program either virtually or in person. So we have groups over the last year who've been using this series through Zoom and other video conferencing platforms. And the feedback we've received has been really amazing. I personally have participated in one of our pilot virtual groups with folks that I have never met before. And we've had an incredibly transformative experience. I feel so much love and care towards them and from them. And it's just really profound that you can have such a meaningful experience on Zoom. But it also can be done in person. And we'd love to see groups gather together again in person to do this series when and if that's possible. It's also a possibility to do some kind of hybrid. So as you're considering how you could use this program in your faith community, it could be that you meet in person for the opening retreat or for various aspects of the program, but that you meet for your regular sessions over Zoom or another video conferencing platform. The program is designed for a small group, so anywhere between 7 to 14 individuals, including the facilitators. Having that small group is really important to develop that sense of trust and community and connection with one another. The programs as they stand right now are 2 hours for the virtual gatherings and 2.5 hours for in-person gatherings. As Susie mentioned, we're in the middle of updating and adapting a few parts of this program. And so there might be a shift to that time come July, but for now, that's how the program is. As Susie mentioned, there's also resources and reading and weekly assignments that come with the program. And so you can expect for the facilitators and the participants to spend time reading from the resources that were listed earlier each week, as well as engaging in spiritual practices and time journaling in the Engaging Spirituality Journal. Typically, the weekly assignments take between, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes to an hour each week, depending on the individual, the speed that they process information, and really how much time that they dedicate to that spiritual practice each week. And I wanted to cover finally just some logistics. So the program, each program in the series, each 8-session program is $225 per group. That gives the group access to that program for an entire year. So if your church in Iowa were to purchase the first program in the series, you could run currently multiple small groups under that registration over the course of the year. If you're interested in buying all 3 programs in the series at once, we do offer a $25 discount per program. So that would reduce your price by $75 if you want to purchase the whole program as a series. The only additional cost is the cost of books and resources. And we encourage folks to order those through JustFaith Ministries. It helps support us as a nonprofit. However, we don't require you to purchase those resources through us. The only kind of thing to note is that the Engaging Spirituality Journal was written by us, and we're the only organization that sells that journal. Once you register for the program, you immediately get access to the content in an online account. So it's really easy for a coordinator of the program or the facilitators to go into their online account and begin reviewing the material and making decisions about the group. So whether or not you want to meet in person or virtual, who are going to be the co-facilitators for the program. So we encourage 2 facilitators join together in a team to bring the program to a small group. Those facilitators are people like yourselves who are leaders in your community who are willing to take on that role to offer the program. We have a variety of supports available to facilitators, from one-on-one support to training, but that's an important thing to decide from the beginning is who's going to take on that role. And then finally, it's beginning the process of promoting the program or the series. We have promotion kits for each of the programs in the series that provide social media posts, email blurbs, and bulletin blurbs, anything that you would need in order to spread the word about the upcoming program, to invite your community into this transformative journey together. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen. And if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them for you.
Great. The cost of the books is usually around $40. Is that right?
It is on average around $40. I would have to review to go back and look just to be able to tell you exactly what the cost is for each
quite
program.
a list of readings, but that average is at 40. I was wondering what type of immersion experience you would have for these courses, and also what kind of pilgrimage do you have in mind?
Susie, you are muted before you go on.
All right, thank you. Am I unmuted now? Great. Good questions, Melody, and I didn't cover that. Now I'm realizing. So the immersion experience, the first immersion experience in the program, and again, I'm going to speak from the in-person version because there's a variation that has to be done, and it's individualized with the virtual version. But the in-person version is designed to be essentially your group meets together and then disperses in pairs. And it's contemplatively sitting in various places and doing journaling. And so that's what the immersion is. It's really designed just to be an immersion. It's probably going to resonate with you when I say that, none of us, we're such a busy culture that none of us really are paying attention to what's happening around us on a daily basis. And I'm guilty. That's one of the reasons why I love this program, is just bringing awareness to what's happening in your regular daily life. And so that's what the immersion experience is. And then there's, of course, coming back together and doing a little debriefing around the experience. The pilgrimage is unique, is that the group as a whole goes to four different locations that are representative of four different things: environmental justice, social justice, blanking on the four right now, but there's four specific places that are represented, and people go to a place that represents social justice, a place that represents environmental justice. And there's a prayer ritual that's done by the group at that location. And so that's what the pilgrimage is going to those actual sites that represent these various aspects of justice, and doing a little prayer ritual, and again, journaling. So
that sounds similar to Stations of the Cross that we've done here, and going out to the various nonprofits and agencies that we as a church cooperate with.
I would say it has a very similar vibe to the Stations of the Cross, that kind of, going out to a place and doing a reflection. Yes.
So the four different sites of justice. One is faith justice, so looking for a faith-based outreach program in your community. Another's a site of social justice. The third is economic justice. And the fourth is environmental justice.
Right. Great. Well, this sounds wonderful. I thought it was interesting in the way that this progresses through the three different programs. I had been at Global Mission Conference recently, and one of the women who spoke on care of creation and racial justice put it, she started out with the awakened heart, and then went to the broken heart, and then to the radiant heart. And so it sounds very similar to the progression that you have in this program.
I would say that's a very good summary of the ebb and flow. In this particular program, it will be, this is a good place for me to note that in some of our programs, you can take one of the programs in the series out of order. We have a recommended order for all of our series, of course, but with our Eco Justice program, for example, you could do the second one before you do the first one. Not a big deal. In this particular program series, we do recommend that people start with the first one and move through in the order that they've been written, because otherwise psychologically it doesn't make sense. Spiritually, it doesn't make sense. There's a very distinct flow that you just named.
Well, thank you so much for treating me this morning to your presentation. I'm really very interested in this, and I also feel that there's a huge need for this spiritual grounding in all the work that we do, and it gets at it in different ways, but the idea of having worshipful work is something that I'd like to promote and do myself.
Oh. Well, I will say, and we didn't do introductions at the beginning, I'm the executive director, which just means that I go wherever Leela tells me I should be on any given day. But really, Leela is our outreach and engagement associate, and her primary role is supporting people who are coordinating or facilitating our programs. So any questions, Leela is your person to go to.
Yeah, Leela's been very helpful to me already, explaining things. So thank you.
Absolutely. And Melody, you will receive a follow-up email from me that will include a PDF of the slides as well as the recording. So if there's anyone in your community that you'd like to share that with, feel free to pass it along. It'll also live on our YouTube channel so they can come back and find it in the future.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I hope you have a good rest of your afternoon, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Go
Bye.
Iowa.
Yeah. Welcome home.
Yes, thank you. Take care, Mel.
Bye.
Thanks, Leela. Are you